If you have watched the Fallout series, you have seen the premise. Underground vaults built to shelter a chosen few while the rest of the world burns above them. Most viewers assumed that idea was science fiction. It was not. During the Cold War, the United States government built a real network of underground bunkers designed to save the political elite in the event of nuclear war. One of them was hidden beneath a luxury resort, disguised as a hotel wing and kept secret for 30 years. The people who paid for it, American taxpayers, were never told it existed. Their survival plan was a cartoon turtle and a school desk. In 1958, the federal government buried a classified facility underneath one of the most luxurious resorts in America. Behind a door marked, "Danger, High Voltage, Keep Out," past 25-ton blast doors made by the same company that built bank vaults, sat a fully operational underground complex the size of 2 football fields, stacked on top of each other. It had dormitories with over 1,000 bunk beds, a 400-seat cafeteria, separate chambers for the House of Representatives and the Senate, a hospital with an operating room, a pharmacy stocked with the personal prescriptions of individual members of Congress, and a television studio with a painted backdrop of the United States Capitol, so that lawmakers could broadcast to whatever remained of the American public and pretend they were still in Washington. This facility existed for 30 years. It was never used, and it was built for exactly 535 people. Not for you. This is the story of Project Greek Island, the classified Cold War operation that turned a mountain resort in West Virginia into a secret underground capital. But more than that, it is the story of what the United States government decided was worth saving when nuclear war seemed inevitable, and what it decided to leave behind. The plan started with President Dwight Eisenhower. By the mid-1950s, the Soviet Union had detonated its first hydrogen bomb, and American military planners faced a terrifying realization. If Washington, D.C. was destroyed in a first strike, the entire legislative branch of the United States government would be wiped out in a single moment. The Constitution had no clear mechanism for replacing 535 members of Congress at once. So Eisenhower instructed the Department of Defense to find a solution. The Army Corps of Engineers began scouting locations, somewhere close enough to reach from the capital, but far enough to survive a nuclear blast. They settled on a place that already had a long, quiet relationship with the federal government. The Greenbrier, a sprawling resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. During World War II, the Greenbrier had served as an internment facility for Axis diplomats and later as a military hospital where Eisenhower himself had once been a patient. It was isolated, it was discreet, and it was surrounded by mountains. Construction began in 1958 under the cover story that the resort was simply adding a new wing, the West Virginia wing, with conference rooms and additional guest suites. And on the surface, that is exactly what it looked like. Guests checked in, attended events, played golf. But beneath them, crews were pouring reinforced concrete walls 2 feet thick, installing blast doors weighing up to 28 tons, and carving out 112,000 square feet of underground space. Construction workers noticed the scale of what they were building. One of them, Randy Wickline, later recalled, they were not building it to keep the rain off them. A fool would have known, but nobody talked. The resort was the largest employer in Greenbrier County. Generations of families worked there. Loyalty ran deep, and so did the fear of losing the only good job in town. The bunker was completed in 1962, just in time for the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was designed to absorb the shock of a nuclear detonation 15 to 30 miles away. Inside, it contained everything Congress would need to continue governing. The Governor's Hall, a 440-seat auditorium built to host the House of Representatives, and the smaller Mountaineer Room for the Senate. There was an exhibit hall large enough for joint sessions, and here is where the deception becomes extraordinary. These rooms were not hidden away behind locked corridors. They were part of the hotel. Guests walked through them every day to attend business conferences and trade fairs, never realizing they were sitting inside a classified government bunker. A brochure from the 1960s even advertised the exhibit hall to guests, boasting that the floor was finished with a beautiful plastic terrazzo designed to support unlimited weight. The guests never asked why a conference room floor would need to support unlimited weight. But the deception went further. To maintain the bunker in a constant state of readiness, the government created a shell company called Forsyth Associates, based in Arlington, Virginia. Officially, Forsyth was a television repair company contracted to service the Greenbrier's 1,100 televisions. In reality, its employees were government operatives with top-secret security clearances. The company's first manager, John Lundis, was a former cryptographic expert from the Army Signal Corps who had been stationed at the Pentagon. These operatives spent roughly 20% of their time actually repairing televisions, enough to maintain their cover, and the rest maintaining the bunker. They rotated food supplies, updated communications equipment, and even kept the pharmacy stocked with the current prescription medications of every sitting member of Congress, refreshed each session. If the call came, there would be no delay. The bunker could be activated in hours. A T&T provided phone service for both the hotel and the bunker, routing all calls from the underground facility through the resort's main switchboard so that any outside listener would believe the calls originated from the hotel. The communication center contained 3 generations of telephone technology, constantly upgraded to keep pace with evolving military requirements. And then there was the broadcast studio, perhaps the most unsettling detail of the entire facility. In the event of a nuclear attack, surviving members of Congress would have been expected to address the nation. The studio was equipped with cameras, lighting, and a painted backdrop of the Capitol building, designed so that broadcasts would give the illusion that the government was still operating from Washington. The message to any surviving Americans watching would have been, "Everything is under control." The reality would have been lawmakers crammed into bunk beds 60 to a room, eating freeze-dried rations in a cafeteria, decorated with fake windows showing painted landscapes, because there were no real windows 720 feet underground. Now, consider what was happening above ground during those same decades. While the government maintained a bunker with a 6-month food supply for Congress, ordinary Americans were told to build plywood shelters in their basements and practice hiding under school desks. The civil defense program that was supposed to protect 300 million citizens amounted to pamphlets, sirens, and a cartoon turtle named Bert who told children to duck and cover. Military planners knew the truth. As Eisenhower himself said in one meeting, if war happened, the nation did not have enough bulldozers to scrape the bodies off the streets. The government understood that no realistic civil defense program could protect the general population from a full-scale nuclear exchange, so they focused on what they considered essential, preserving the government itself. And this is where the story shifts from fascinating to deeply uncomfortable. The Greenbrier was not the only bunker. It was part of a network. Raven Rock, carved into a mountain in Pennsylvania, served as the alternate Pentagon, a 600,000 square foot underground city for military leadership. Mount Weather in Virginia was built for FEMA and senior civilian officials. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado housed NORAD. There was even a bunker at Mount Pony in Virginia that stored 700 million pieces of currency, mostly $2 bills, because, as author Garrett Graff noted, the government figured people would be less choosy about currency after an apocalypse. Each branch of government had its own protected location. The Supreme Court planned to reconvene at the Grove Park Inn in North Carolina. But Chief Justice Earl Warren refused to participate when he learned that spouses would not be allowed to evacuate with their husbands. House Speaker Tip O'Neill had a similar reaction. He said he lost interest when they told him his wife would not be going with him. The survival plan, by design, separated government officials from their families. The expectation was that in the moment of ultimate crisis, public servants would abandon the people closest to them to preserve an institution. Reports indicate that this policy has never changed. The Greenbrier bunker stayed ready for 30 years. It survived the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, Watergate, the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was never activated, not once, and its existence was never officially acknowledged until 1992, when Washington Post reporter Ted Gupp published an exposé titled "The Ultimate Congressional Hideaway." His anonymous source was reportedly a government insider who objected to taxpayer money being spent to maintain a Cold War relic in the post-Soviet era. The government decommissioned the bunker immediately after the article ran. By 1995, the Greenbrier began offering tours. Today, visitors pay to walk through the same halls where Congress was supposed to survive the end of the world. The blast doors are still there, the decontamination showers are still there, the bunk beds are still there, and beneath the casino that was later built on the property, according to visitors and former employees, there are ventilation systems in places where ventilation does not belong, and military personnel still occasionally appear in the resort's dining room. The Fallout series imagined a world where corporations and governments built vaults for the privileged and left everyone else to face the wasteland. Audiences were horrified. And then they changed the channel. But the Greenbrier bunker is not a writer's room invention. It is a documented fact, confirmed by declassified records, congressional testimony, and the government's own architectural blueprints. The vaults were real. The question is not whether they were necessary. In the logic of the Cold War, they probably were. The question is whether the people who paid for them ever had the right to know what their government valued most when it stared into the abyss. and whether somewhere behind another door marked danger, high voltage, the answer is still the same. If this is the kind of story that matters to you, the structures governments build in secret, the decisions they make when no one is watching, and the communities left to deal with the consequences, then this channel was built for exactly that. Subscribe, and we will keep digging.